Hey y'all, welcome back to Thrifty Virgo Lefty. This is my segment that's called Thrifty Speaks, where I am here to share different information. Like I said, normally my blog or vlog or sewing DIY channel consists of me sharing the things that I've learned. And also I do have more stuff available. You can check me out in the about section. But right now I wanted to talk about homeschooling. Now, let's get into this thing here. This is one of the topics that has been a thing for the last 2 years. It hasn't been a thing for me because I've been doing it since 2019. Let me go back. I actually did it a little bit back in, they had to be like 2009. I did it for probably about 6 months with my son towards the end of the year, and we were actually transitioning. We were living in Georgia for a little while, and I was coming back here, and it just wasn't the school system. It just wasn't working out, whatever. So during that transition, his learning style was similar to mine, so it was easier to work with him because I had prepared him since he was 4 when I was in school learning, a lot about phonemic awareness, and all of that stuff. All of it was fresh. It was off the dome. I even took him to school with me sometimes. So my experience kind of came from, I was like, okay, well, whew, I'm so glad I took that class. Girl, won't he do it? I didn't even know how important elementary education was going to be in the future. I mean, I know it's important, but what I'm saying is I didn't know parents were going to have to really lean on one another to teach their children and, form these co-ops and form all these different groups and things of that nature because of all the times. So here we are. I had so many people. I had so much backlash. It was not even funny. And it was from people that were really close to me. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you. So this is what happened. My youngest child, there was an educational gap. It was an educational gap with math. And it started to kind of spill over in her reading. And I wanted to stop it because I was just like, wait a minute. So I started seeing the assignments that the teacher would bring to send home, and that was done. And I said, well, how the heck you sitting there looking at her and she looking at you and she ain't doing nothing? I said, okay, so this is what it has become. They really don't care. So it got worse. And one thing I learned, 3rd grade, if your child cannot read fluently, it's going to be a thing. So I nipped that in the bud and pulled her out. As a matter of fact, it was 11/11/19 when I pulled her out. I wanted to unschool her because what happens is a lot of kids become so discouraged emotionally because they feel like, and it happens a lot to our children, because when they're in certain schools and environments, they don't feel comfortable. They lose their voice. They don't know how to really voice themselves. And my daughter kind of was losing her voice, and I really didn't like that. And I would listen year after year, oftentimes, where she would just talk about Miss Such and Such said this, Miss Such and Such said that. And so I would turn to her and what do you think about it? And she wouldn't have a response. I was just like, I don't like this here because these ladies can tell them anything. And no shade, but white ain't always right. And that's just my opinion. So when I would go and meet with these people and sit at the table and ask these difficult questions, everybody started looking crazy because they wasn't used to a parent that had as much knowledge about elementary education, as much or maybe even more, because I became a parent so young. So I was, kind of I've been around children my whole life. Like, my first job was babysitting. I babysit my little cousins and stuff. So working with kids came second nature to me, because you got to meet them where they are. You got to be real with them. You can't, girl, they little people growing up in the world. You got to talk to them. You got to talk to them. They know more than what you think. Anyway, so it was just real interesting, because every conversation and meeting, you can tell everybody had came together before they sat and talked to me, because it was so polished and all that. And I would pull their card, and I would see through, I would pull the veil. So the whole goal was to get a lot of these kids on IEPs or special education, and it's done intentionally in certain demographics. So with that being said, they don't really care for kindergarten, first, second grade if your children get those concepts. They don't care, because all of it doesn't count until third grade when they can test. Now, when they're able to test, the sad part is a lot of them are teaching just to test. So they'll introduce a concept, then they'll test on it. Now, the concept, they don't really have much time to really dive deep into it. Homeschooling, you have the ability to dive deep into it. You're able to take the time to ask the questions, and then you don't have a classroom full of children. Another problem was a lot of kids were misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, overdiagnosed. So you had a combination of kids that you had in there. You got to get JoJo from jumping on the window. It was just a lot of teachers were so overwhelmed, and they didn't have control of their classroom. That's one of the things. When you lose control of your classroom, you don't have a classroom, period. That was one of the first things they taught in elementary education. 101, introductory course. You don't have a class. So I would go and observe and be like, oh, my days. Now, one teacher, her last one, I don't think she had those type of problems in her class. I just felt like, she didn't care. Some people come to pay their bills and get their student loans paid. Let's be honest. Let's be clear. Stop playing with me. And they better stop playing with these children. That's why, I wouldn't do what I needed to do. So, back to the backlash. Back when I had pulled my son out for a little while, somebody was like, a relative was like, well, how would you go work? And I'm looking at her, because at the end of the day, we live in two different households. My household was not affected by hers and vice versa, so I really didn't care about her opinion. Because some people are so small-minded, and when they hear homeschool, they run. So then, fast forward, when I took my daughter out, I had a so-called friend that would tell me, oh, I would have left her there. And I was like, your kids are a little older. So the new age elementary school education problems are different from what they were, because everything changes so much. So I had the opportunity to see the evolution of the education system for everything, every aspect of it. So, not to say, I don't know, but I didn't spend my time wasting my time and energy arguing with a person that ain't understand, because let me tell you, it took their ass like 2 years later to understand why I made my decision. So y'all go ahead and do what y'all need to do, and you make sure you don't base your opinion on somebody else that is not informed and they are not in your situation, okay? You can do it. All right? I'm going to come back and talk about that a little bit later, because my video getting a little long, y'all. All right, thank you so much. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and you hit that bell button so I can come back and talk to you some more. All right?